This is my underwater jungle. 100 days ago it looked like this. Join me as we explore the challenges and transformations that turn this glass box into a lush aquatic paradise. It all started almost 3 years ago when I built my first aquascape. It was a simple design for my simple mind. I uploaded the video to YouTube and all was well until I received this comment. It was in French, but it translated to,
"Not an aquascape, a pile of stones and 3 plants at the bottom of a tank. You are not cold in the eyes. No subscription."
Not cold in the eyes? What the hell does that mean? Taken more than 2 years to get over that comment, and some of the fish were getting too big for the tank. So it was finally time to try it again. So that brings us to day 1. I'd had this empty tank lying around for almost a year, and after soaking the wood for a few weeks, my son said it looked like a haunted swamp, so it was time to get started. First thing to do was to test the strength of the cabinet. Bruh. There was a bit of a wobble, so I had to reinforce it with some wooden planks. Now it was time to clean out the tank and start designing the scape. I started off with a layer of soil mix to add some nutrients. Then for a base layer I used a mixture of gravel, aqua soil and clay substrate I'd saved from other tanks. Before adding the sand, I thought I'd try out some ideas with a hardscape. I obviously wasn't very good at this part and it took several attempts to find a layout I liked. After all, I am
not cold in the eyes.
Finally, after breaking up the wood, I was happy. So it was time to cap it off with sand and rebuild the layout. I filled the bottom of the tank with water and started planting. I took trimmings from the old tank and bought a few more plants, so this time I added more than just 3 plants.
A pile of stones and 3 plants at the bottom of a tank.
After I'd finished planting, I added the new filter, along with some of the goo from the old tank filter to kickstart things. Now I wanted the plants to grow super quickly, and the best way to do that is to add CO2. So I did just that. Now I could have gone all out and bought a big expensive CO2 kit, but I'm a cheapskate, and I went with this DIY version for Amazon. You basically mix bicarbonate of soda and citric acid in water, and that reacts and creates CO2. The CO2 is then diffused into the water using this thing, and plants can use it to grow like crazy. I actually tested this out in the old tank, and it went completely wild. After the CO2 was in, all that was left was to add a heater and this little liquid. So this liquid basically changes colour to tell me how much CO2 is in the water, so I can make sure that the fish can still breathe. Now the setup was complete. On day 7, I added the first fish, some cherry barbs from the original tank. I added the fish a few at a time over several weeks so that the filter could keep up with the bioload. On day 12, I added a new plant, one that I'd hoped would create a carpet of small grass-like leaves along the front of the tank. I was wrong. This was something I would learn to regret. A bit of an algae bloom meant it was also time for a quick clean-up. The rocks could be a little cleaner, but it looked much better. On day 20, I tested the water again. Then it was time to add the big boys from the old tank. The Siamese algae eater was pretty easy to catch and went in without any problems. But now it's time to introduce you to Bristle Douche. I rescued them as a baby when they were about to be put in the bin, and they'd more than quadrupled in size in just a few months, and basically destroyed everything in its way. After ripping apart the whole tank, I managed to find him and catch him. Adding him to this tank was another big mistake, as I would soon find out. I also managed to catch these loaches at the same time, which I've seen about 3 or 4 times in the last 5 years or so I've had them. On day 26, I added some little suckers. These are ottos, and they'll basically spend their lives sucking algae off the glass and leaves. And they're kind of like little bros for this guy. At this point, I'd noticed the dwarf sag had already started to spread. 2 days later, it was time for the tank's first trim. I replanted most of the healthy trimmings back into the tank, to try and make them look more bushy and dense. The next day, the tank was a mess. The base layer had been disturbed and was all over the top of the sand. I was starting to regret saving this bristle. On day 31, my wife had decided to reorganise the room that the tank was in, which meant the tank had to be moved. I only needed twisting onto the other wall, but I basically had to drain most of the water out of the tank first because it was so heavy. And now it was kind of annoying because you could see the base layer from the side of the tank. But on the plus side, I did catch a glimpse of the Java loach. Day 35 and the tank was a mess again. This went on for a few more weeks. I'd tidy the tank one day and then it would just be a mess again the day after. On day 50 it was time for another trim and I decided to clean out the filter. I squeezed out the sponge in a bucket of tank water and surprisingly the filter media was really clean. And the next day, guess what? It was a mess again. By day 55, I had had enough of Bristle Douche. Clean up the tank just to see it trash later that day. So the next day I managed to catch him and I took him to my local fish shop, who took him off me for free. And now he's going to live here for the rest of his days. After Bristle Douche had gone, things calmed down. I could finally enjoy the tank now that it wasn't getting destroyed every day. On day 70, sag had completely taken over and you could barely see the fish anymore. 4 days later, I planned to do a huge trim, but I didn't know where to start, so I just kind of left it. Then, a few days later, I went on holiday. When I got back from holiday, it was day 95. I couldn't hold off any longer. I had to trim these plants. So I just started to hack away at everything. Then I gave the glass a clean and did a water change. And it actually looked really good. But on day 99, I decided the safest thing to do would be to just rip it all out. So I did just that. And that brings us to day 100. Tank wasn't looking too bad considering I'd ripped half of it up the day before. And although it's had its ups and downs over the last 100 days, I'm excited to add some new fish and plants and see how it progresses over the next 100. What should I add next? Anyway, thanks for watching.